Nothing like watching your wife fondle her old flame during your son's wedding vows to make you believe in true love. There I was, Harold Keaton, 55 years of pushing numbers around spreadsheets, standing in the back of the Ocean View Manor while my wife Dana pressed herself against Victor Lane like they were teenagers at prom instead of middle-aged has-beens at our boy's wedding. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The irony wasn't lost on me. 27 years ago, Dana had chosen me over Victor because I had stability and prospects. Victor was the bad boy with the motorcycle and the criminal record. I was the accountant with the steady paycheck and the sensible Honda. Guess which one she was grinding against behind the wedding cake table? Beautiful ceremony, Mrs. Pruitt whispered beside me, her eagle eyes tracking the same soap opera I was watching. Your Dana looks radiant. Glowing, I agreed, watching my wife giggle at something Victor whispered in her ear. Absolutely glowing. The storm clouds gathering outside matched my mood perfectly. This whole wedding had been Dana's production from start to finish. She'd insisted on the historic mansion venue, the expensive flowers from her shop, the elaborate reception, all on my dime, naturally. I'd written checks for months while she fluttered around playing wedding planner, never mentioning that she'd invited her high school boyfriend to the festivities. My son Jake looked happy up there with his bride Sarah. At least someone was having a good day. The kid had inherited his mother's charm and my practical streak, a decent combination that would serve him well. Too bad he'd also inherited my talent for picking the wrong people to trust. Dad, Jake appeared at my elbow, still glowing from the ceremony. Great turnout, right? Mom really outdid herself with the decorations. She certainly did. I watched Dana lead Victor toward the side exit, her hand on his arm. Your mother has always been good at making things look beautiful on the surface. Jake followed my gaze and his smile faltered slightly. Oh, Victor Lane. I didn't know Mom invited him. Neither did I, son. Neither did I. The reception droned on with the usual small-town wedding rituals. Speeches about love and commitment, while my wife disappeared for 20-minute intervals with her old flame. Dancing to songs about forever while Victor's hands wandered places they had no business being. Toasts to new beginnings while my marriage crumbled in real time. Gary Morrison, my best friend since high school, slid up to me during the father-son dance. You seeing what I'm seeing, Harry? Hard to miss. I watched Dana and Victor swaying together during what was supposed to be a family dance. She's not exactly being subtle. Want me to accidentally spill something on his suit? Tempting, but no. Let them have their fun. I took a long sip of my whiskey. Every dog has its day, Gary. Today just isn't mine. But tomorrow might be different. The real kicker came during my father of the groom speech. I'd prepared something heartfelt about love and commitment, about choosing the right partner and building a life together. Standing there with the microphone in my hand, looking out at Jake and Sarah's hopeful faces, I almost delivered it straight. Instead, I found myself saying, marriage is about trust, kids. It's about knowing your partner will be there for you, through thick and thin, through good times and bad, through weddings and other occasions. My eyes found Dana in the crowd. She was leaning against Victor, not even pretending to pay attention to her husband's speech. It's about loyalty, about keeping your promises, about remembering that some choices can't be undone. The applause was polite, but confused. Jake shot me a worried look. I raised my glass and smiled. To Jake and Sarah, may they choose wisely. The party wound down around midnight. Dana had been missing for the last hour, along with Victor. I helped clean up, made small talk with the stragglers, and waited. The storm had arrived in full force, rain lashing the windows and thunder rolling across the harbor. I was loading wedding gifts into my car when my phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number, but the content made me freeze. Finally free from him? Meet me at the usual place tomorrow. Can't wait to pick up where we left off. V. Wrong number. The text was meant for Dana. I stood there in the parking lot, rain soaking through my suit, staring at the screen. Victor Lane, the man who'd been sniffing around my wife all evening, thought she was finally free from me. They had a usual place. They were picking up where they left off. That was the moment, right there in the storm, that I stopped being the nice guy. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office with a cup of coffee and Victor's misdirected text message, thinking about 27 years of marriage and what it all meant now. Dana had stumbled home around 2 a.m, claiming she'd been helping clean up at the venue. Her dress was wrinkled, her makeup smeared, and she smelled like cheap cologne and lies. "How was the cleanup?" I'd asked from my chair in the living room. She'd jumped like a guilty cat. "Harold, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark?" Just thinking. About the wedding, about choices, about trust. "It's late. Come to bed." "In a minute." I'd held up my phone. "Got an interesting text tonight." Her face had gone white in the lamplight, but she'd recovered quickly. "Oh? From who?" "Wrong number, but educational." I'd shown her the screen. "Seems like someone thinks you're finally free from me." The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Then Dana had laughed, a brittle sound that fooled neither of us. "That's ridiculous. Someone's obviously confused." Obviously. She'd gone upstairs alone. I'd stayed in my chair until dawn, planning. They say accountants are boring. Turns out we're just patient, and thorough, and very, very good at finding things that don't want to be found. By morning, I had a complete picture of our financial situation. Every account, every asset, every debt. Dana's flower shop, Petal and Stem, was hemorrhaging money despite her claims of success. The lease was in my name, as were most of the business loans. The equipment, the van, even the fancy cash register, all financed through accounts I controlled. Interesting. I also had access to Dana's phone records, thanks to our shared family plan. The number of calls and texts to Victor Lane's number over the past 6 months was impressive. So was the frequency, several times a day, often late at night. More interesting. By the time Dana wandered downstairs for coffee, I was already dressed for work. She looked terrible, hungover, guilty, and defensive all at once. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we? About what?" "About last night. About that text. About us." I poured myself a second cup of coffee and considered her. 27 years of marriage, and I was finally seeing my wife clearly. The perfectly styled hair that cost more than most people's rent. The designer clothes that somehow never appeared on our credit card statements. The manicured nails that never seemed to get dirty despite running a flower shop. "I'm late for work," I said. "We'll talk tonight." Harold. "Tonight, Dana. After I've had time to think." I left her standing in the kitchen, probably already reaching for her phone to call Victor. Let them panic. Let them wonder what I knew and what I planned to do about it. The lobster trap hadn't changed much since high school. Same scarred wooden bar, same nautical decorations, same smell of beer and fried clams. Gary was already there when I arrived after work, nursing a beer and watching the Red Sox lose to the Yankees. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "Feel worse." I ordered a whiskey and settled onto the adjacent stool. "Need to ask you something, Gary, about Victor Lane." "That snake? What about him?" "How long has he been back in town?" Gary's expression darkened. "About 8 months. Showed up claiming he was getting into real estate, rented that place on Harbor Street." "Why?" "Just curious. He mention anything about old times, old friends?" "He's been sniffing around, asking questions about people. About you, actually. And Dana." Gary turned to face me fully. "Harry, what's going on?" I pulled out my phone and showed him Victor's text. Gary read it twice, his face getting redder with each word. That piece of shit. How long has this been going on? Good question. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are you going to do about it? I finished my whiskey and stood up. I'm going to be very, very careful and very, very thorough. You need backup, you call me. I will. The walk home took me past Dana's shop. The lights were off, but I had keys. Inside, surrounded by the cloying smell of roses and baby's breath, I did what accountants do best. I audited. The books were a disaster. Dana had been skimming cash, inflating expenses, and hiding transactions for months. But the real revelation came from her computer, where she'd been careless about deleting her browser history. Hotel websites, restaurant reservations for two, travel sites showing searches for tropical destinations. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning to leave. My phone buzzed with another text. This one actually meant for me. Working late at shop, don't wait up. D. I looked around the empty store, smiled, and started taking pictures of everything. The financial records, the computer screen, the hidden bottle of expensive champagne in her desk drawer, evidence, ammunition, insurance. Then I went home and waited. Dana didn't come home that night, or the next morning. When she finally appeared around noon, she was wearing the same clothes from the day before and carrying a bag from Harbor Street Pharmacy. Where were you? I asked. The shop, inventory, you wouldn't understand. Try me. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the exact moment she realized the game had changed. Her husband wasn't asking out of concern or jealousy. He was asking because he already knew the answer. I think we should separate, she said. Do you? This isn't working, Harold. We both know it. We're different people than we were when we got married. You're right about that. I stood up from the kitchen table where I'd been reading the morning paper. You've certainly changed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about Victor. I know about the hotels. I know about the money you've been stealing from the shop. I know about all of it, Dana. Her face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, fear, anger, and finally defiance. So what? You going to divorce me? Take half of nothing? Good luck with that. Actually, I said, I was thinking of something more creative. That got her attention. What do you mean? I smiled, and for the first time in 27 years, my wife looked genuinely afraid of me. You wanted to be free, Dana. Let's see how free you can get. At 3 a.m, Harbor Street was empty except for the occasional police cruiser and the sound of waves crashing against the seawall. Perfect conditions for what I had in mind. Gary met me at the corner with his pickup truck and a set of bolt cutters, no questions asked. That's what 20-year friendships buy you, unconditional backup when you need to reclaim your life. You sure about this? He whispered as we approached Petal and Stem. Absolutely sure. I unlocked the front door with my key. My name was still on the lease, after all. Everything in there belongs to me, legally, morally, and financially. And Dana? Dana made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. The next 2 hours were the most therapeutic of my life. Every piece of equipment Dana had bought with my money, every computer, every cash register, every refrigerated display case, all of it went into Gary's truck. The fancy espresso machine she'd insisted was essential for customer service. The expensive floral arranging tools she'd ordered from some catalog. Even the little decorative touches that had cost a fortune but added nothing to the bottom line. I left 3 things behind: a folding card table, a metal folding chair, and an envelope containing every bill, every overdue notice, and every creditor's demand that had been piling up in the shop's mailbox. On top of the pile, I placed a handwritten note. Dana, the lease expires Friday. The utilities are being disconnected Thursday. The insurance was canceled yesterday. Good luck with your new life. H. Then I changed the locks. By dawn, Petal and Stem looked like a crime scene. Empty shelves, bare walls, nothing but dust bunnies and broken dreams. I stood outside in the morning light, drinking coffee from a thermos and waiting for the show to begin. Maggie arrived first. Dana's assistant was a sweet kid, barely 25, who'd believed every lie Dana told her about the shop's success and her own bright future in the floral business. She stood outside the locked door for 10 minutes, trying her key and peering through the windows, before pulling out her phone. The call to Dana lasted about 30 seconds. Then Maggie sat down on the curb and started crying. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Dana's car screeched into the parking lot 20 minutes later. She jumped out like her hair was on fire, tried her own key, then started pounding on the glass door. "Harold!" she screamed. "I know you're watching! Open this door right now!" I finished my coffee and walked over. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, yesterday's clothes, the kind of panic that comes from watching your carefully constructed lies collapse in real time. "Morning, Dana. Problem with your shop?" "You snake! You can't do this!" "Actually, I can. It's all perfectly legal. My lease, my equipment, my money." I handed her a copy of the lease agreement. "See? Harold Keaton, lessee. Dana Keaton, authorized user. Emphasis on was. The customers will have to find their flowers elsewhere. I hear the grocery store has a nice selection." She lunged at me then, all fingernails and fury, but I stepped back and let her stumble into the door. Maggie gasped from the curb. "This is kidnapping!" Dana shouted. "Theft! I'm calling the police!" "Please do." "I'd love to explain to Detective Morse how you've been embezzling from a business that legally belongs to your husband." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken. These should make for interesting evidence in the divorce proceedings. The fight went out of her like air from a punctured balloon. She stared at the screen, then at me, then at the empty shop behind the locked door. "What do you want?" "Nothing from you, Dana. Absolutely nothing." I walked away, leaving her standing there with Maggie and the wreckage of her dreams. But I wasn't done, not even close. Victor Lane lived in a rental house on Harbor Street, a gaudy Victorian that the owner had painted purple and gold in a misguided attempt at charm. I knew the owner, Bill Henderson, who'd hired me to do his taxes for the past decade. Bill was also my client, which meant I knew exactly when Victor's lease was up and how much he owed in back rent. Quite a lot, as it turned out. I found Victor in his driveway, loading suitcases into his car, running away apparently. Too bad for him I'd gotten there first. "Going somewhere, Victor?" He spun around, nearly dropping a leather bag. Up close, he looked older than I remembered. Softer. The bad boy image was all hair dye and expensive clothes now, hiding a middle-aged man who'd never quite grown up. "Harold, didn't see you there." "I'll bet. Sudden trip?" "Business. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. My business keeps me in town, taking care of my responsibilities." I stepped closer. "Speaking of responsibilities, Bill Henderson asked me to deliver this." I handed him an eviction notice, properly served and legally binding. Victor's face went pale as he read it. "This is bullshit. I paid my rent. For March, maybe, but it's September, Victor. That's 6 months of bullshit you're behind on." "I can pay. I just need a few days." "You need to be out by Friday, that's what the notice says." He crumpled the paper and threw it at my feet. "This is about Dana, isn't it? You can't stand that she chose me." "Chose you?" I laughed, and it felt good. "Victor, she didn't choose you. She used you, just like she used me, just like she uses everyone. The difference is, I'm done being used. She loves me. She loves the idea of you, the fantasy. But fantasy doesn't pay bills or handle real problems. When this all comes crashing down, and it will, where do you think she'll be?" Victor tried to puff up his chest, tried to recapture some of that old bad boy swagger. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I pulled out my phone again, showed him Dana's financial records. "Your girlfriend is broke, Victor. The shop's gone, her credit's shot, and she owes more money than she'll make in the next 5 years. Still think she chose you for your sparkling personality? The truth hit him like a physical blow. I could see it in his eyes, the moment he realized he'd been played just as thoroughly as I had. You're lying. Am I? Ask her. Ask her about the debts, the creditors, the bills she's been hiding. Ask her what her plan is now that her meal ticket is gone. I leaned closer, close enough to smell the fear sweat on him. Better yet, ask her how she's planning to pay for that hotel room tonight. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Victor? That text you sent me by mistake? I kept a copy. Might be useful in court. His car door slammed behind me as I walked away, but I heard the engine turn over and the tires squeal as he drove off. Running, just like I'd expected. Bad boys are only tough when they're not facing real consequences. 2 down, 1 to go. The lobster trap was busier than usual for a Tuesday night, which meant Mrs. Pruitt had been working overtime, spreading the gossip about Dana's shop closure and Victor's sudden departure. Small towns run on scandal the way cars run on gasoline, and I'd just provided enough fuel to power the rumor mill for months. Harry? Detective Linda Morse waved me over to her corner booth. Linda was 62, semi-retired, and sharp as a tack despite her grandmother exterior. Buy you a drink? Thanks, but I'm driving. Coffee, then. We need to talk. That sounded ominous. I ordered coffee and slid into the booth across from her. Linda had been a friend of my family for years, but she was still a cop, and cops notice things. Interesting day you've had, she said. How so? Well, let's see. Dana's shop mysteriously emptied overnight. Victor Lane packed up and left town without paying his debts. And you've been seen around town looking like the cat that ate the canary. She stirred her coffee slowly. Want to tell me what's really going on? Just cleaning house, Linda. Getting my affairs in order. Uh-huh. And this sudden house cleaning wouldn't have anything to do with your son's wedding, would it? Or certain behavior observed at said wedding. I looked at her carefully. You were there? Off duty, but yes. Hard to miss the floor show your wife was putting on with her old boyfriend. Linda's expression softened slightly. Harry, I've known you since you were Jake's age. You're a good man who's been dealt a bad hand. But whatever you're planning, make sure it stays legal. Everything I've done is completely legal. I believe you. Just make sure it stays that way. She left me sitting there with my coffee and my thoughts. Linda's warning was noted, but I wasn't planning anything illegal. I didn't need to. The truth was devastating enough. Dana found me at home that night, sitting in my office with a glass of whiskey and a stack of financial documents. She looked like she'd been crying, which was a first in our marriage. Dana didn't cry. She raged, she manipulated, she schemed, but she didn't show vulnerability. We need to talk, she said from the doorway. I'm listening. She sat down across from my desk, and for a moment I remembered the woman I'd married. Younger, softer, full of dreams about the life we'd build together. When had she become this stranger? I made mistakes, she said. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. Her composure cracked a little. That's not fair. Fair? I set down my glass and looked at her. Dana, you've been stealing from our business, cheating on our marriage, and planning to leave me for another man. What part of that strikes you as fair? I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Just the stealing? Just the cheating? Or were you planning to take me for everything in the divorce? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Victor's gone, she said finally. I know. He left me a note. Said he couldn't handle the complications. Her voice broke on the last word. 27 years of marriage, and he couldn't handle complications. Actually, Dana, you left me a 27-year marriage and ran off with him. He just got there first. I know you hate me. I don't hate you. and that was true. Hate required more energy than she deserved. I'm just done with you. What does that mean? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were divorce papers, property settlements, and debt allocations. All legal, all fair, all devastating to someone who'd been living beyond her means for years. It means you're free, Dana. Just like you wanted. She read through the papers, her face getting paler with each page. You can't do this. I'll fight you. With what? You have no money, no business, no assets, and no credit. Your boyfriend ran away at the first sign of trouble. What exactly are you going to fight me with? I'll get a lawyer. Good luck affording one. She threw the papers at me and stormed out. I heard her car start, then drive away into the night, probably heading to one of her friends' houses, looking for sympathy and a couch to sleep on. She'd find less of both than she expected. The next morning brought a knock on my door. I opened it to find Maggie, Dana's former assistant, holding a box of personal items from the shop. Mr. Keaton? I cleaned out Mrs. Keaton's desk. Thought she might want these. She's not here, Maggie. Try her friend Susan's house. I did, and Karen's, and Michelle's. The girl looked exhausted. Nobody's seen her, or if they have, they're not saying. Interesting. Dana's social circle was abandoning her faster than I'd expected. What about you, Maggie? What are your plans? I found another job. At the grocery store. It's not much, but... She shrugged. Mrs. Keaton promised me a lot of things that didn't work out. I'm sorry about that. Are you? Really? She looked at me with surprising directness. Because everyone's saying you destroyed her on purpose, that you planned this whole thing. What do you think? I think she was stealing from the shop long before you shut it down. I think she was lying to everyone, including me, and I think you got tired of being lied to. Maggie set the box down on my porch. I just hope it was worth it. She walked away, leaving me with Dana's personal effects and a question I couldn't quite answer. Was it worth it? The answer came that afternoon, when Dana showed up at my office downtown. She looked terrible, unwashed, desperate, wearing the same clothes she'd had on for days. My secretary tried to stop her, but Dana pushed past and burst into my office like an avenging angel. You bastard! She screamed. You turned everyone against me. I didn't have to turn anyone, Dana. I just stopped covering for you. Susan won't return my calls. Karen told me not to come back. Even my own sister thinks I'm a whore. What do you want from me? Sympathy? She collapsed into the chair across from my desk, and for a moment I thought she was going to cry again. Instead, she pulled herself together with visible effort. I want you to stop this. Call off the divorce. Give me back the shop. We can work this out. No, we can't. I'll make it up to you. I'll pay back the money. With what? I'll get a job. Dana, stop. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a temporary setback. This is over. We're over. Your shop is over. Your relationship with Victor is over. The only question now is whether you're going to accept that gracefully or make it worse for yourself. Make it worse how? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick file. Police reports about the missing cash from the shop. Credit card statements showing purchases you claimed were business expenses. Hotel receipts, phone records, photos. I spread them across the desk like a poker hand. I have enough evidence to send you to jail for embezzlement, Dana. The only reason I haven't is because I don't want to put Jake through that embarrassment. She stared at the papers, her face white. You wouldn't. Try me. The silence stretched between us. Outside my office window, Harbor Street bustled with normal life. People going to work, running errands, living their lives without the weight of 27 years of lies pressing down on them. What do you want? She whispered. I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want you to take responsibility for your debts. And I want you to leave me alone. And if I don't? Then I stop being nice about this. She signed the papers with a shaking hand, then walked out without another word. Through my window, I watched her get into her car and drive away, probably for the last time. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. The storm hit on Thursday night, 3 days after Dana signed the divorce papers. Not the gentle autumn rain we usually got in October, but a full-blown nor'easter that sent waves crashing over the seawall and knocked out power across half the county. I was sitting in my living room, reading by lamplight and listening to the wind howl, when Dana showed up at my door. She was soaked to the skin, her hair plastered to her head, her clothes hanging off her like wet rags. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold, wild, desperate, with the look of someone who had nothing left to lose. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the house. "Dana, you're dripping all over the floor." "I don't give a damn about your floor." She spun around to face me, water flying from her hair. "You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just stopped enabling it." "Enabling?" She laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the storm noise. "Is that what 27 years of marriage was to you? Enabling?" "The last few years, yes." She started pacing around my living room like a caged animal, leaving wet footprints on the hardwood. "You think you're so smart, don't you? So clever. The patient accountant who finally got his revenge." "I think I'm tired, Dana. Tired of the lies, tired of the drama, tired of pretending we have a marriage when all we have is a legal arrangement. We could have worked it out. How? By you continuing to steal from the business? By you continuing to sleep with Victor? By me continuing to pretend I didn't know what was happening?" She stopped pacing and stared at me. "You knew? How long have you known?" "Longer than you think. Shorter than I should have." "Then why didn't you say something sooner?" "Because I kept hoping you'd come to your senses. I kept thinking the woman I married was still in there somewhere, buried under all the selfishness and lies." I sat down in my chair and looked at her. "I was wrong." "You snake." Her voice was quiet now, which somehow made it more frightening. "You let me dig my own grave." "You were going to leave anyway, Dana. You and Victor had it all planned out. The tropical vacation, the new life, the fresh start. I just accelerated the timeline. Victor was a mistake. Victor was a symptom. The disease was our marriage." She lunged at me then, all fingernails and fury. I caught her wrists before she could claw my face, and we struggled for a moment in the lamplight. She was stronger than I expected, driven by desperation and rage, but I was bigger, and I had leverage. "Let me go!" "Not until you calm down." "I'll never calm down. You took everything from me." "I took back what was mine. There's a difference." We were still struggling when my phone rang. I managed to grab it with one hand while holding Dana's wrists with the other. "Harold?" It was Detective Morse. "We've got reports of a domestic disturbance at your address. Everything okay?" I looked at Dana, who was breathing hard and staring at me with pure hatred. "Everything's fine, Linda. Just a disagreement about the divorce settlement." "You sure?" "I can be there in 10 minutes. "That won't be necessary." "Okay, but Harold? If she's there, you might want to know that Victor Lane filed a harassment complaint against her yesterday. Seems she's been calling him non-stop, threatening to hurt herself if he doesn't come back." I felt Dana go limp in my grip. "Thanks for letting me know. Be careful, Harold. Desperate people do desperate things." I hung up and released Dana's wrists. She slumped into the couch, looking suddenly fragile and broken. "He filed a complaint against me?" "Apparently. I just wanted him to come back. I just wanted someone to come back." For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. Not enough to change my mind, but enough to soften my voice. "Dana, you need help. Professional help. I need my life back. Your old life is gone. The question is what you're going to do with what's left." She looked up at me, tears mixing with the rainwater on her face. What is left, Harold? What do I have left? I don't know. That's up to you to figure out. The storm was getting worse outside, rattling the windows and making the lights flicker. Dana sat on my couch, dripping and broken, while I tried to figure out what to do with her. You can't stay here, I said finally. I know. Do you have somewhere to go? Not really. My friends won't talk to me. My family thinks I'm a disgrace. Victor won't even answer his phone. What about your sister in Portland? She said I made my bed and now I have to lie in it. I sighed and went to the closet, pulling out an old raincoat and umbrella. Here, at least you won't drown on the way to your car. She took the coat but didn't put it on. Harold? What? Do you hate me? I considered the question seriously. Did I hate her? For the lies, the cheating, the years of taking me for granted, for making me feel like a fool in my own marriage? No, I said finally. I don't hate you. But I don't love you anymore either, and I can't save you from the consequences of your choices. She nodded and put on the raincoat. At the door, she turned back one more time. I really am sorry, you know, for all of it. I know. Will you tell Jake? Jake's an adult, Dana. If you want to explain yourself to him, you'll have to do it yourself. She walked out into the storm, and I watched through the window as she got into her car and drove away. The taillights disappeared into the rain, and I was alone in my house for the first time in 27 years. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like the end. Friday morning dawned clear and cold, the storm having blown itself out during the night. I woke up alone in my bed, made coffee for one, and read the morning paper without anyone commenting on the headlines or stealing the sports section. After 27 years of marriage, the silence was both liberating and unsettling. My phone rang while I was eating breakfast. Jake's number. Dad, is it true about you and Mom? What have you heard? Everything. The divorce, the shop closing, Victor leaving town, Sarah's getting calls from her friends, and they're all asking questions I can't answer. I sighed and set down my coffee cup. It's true, son. Your mother and I are getting divorced. But why now? I mean, you seemed fine at the wedding. We weren't fine, Jake. We haven't been fine for a long time. The wedding just made it impossible to pretend anymore. There was a long pause. Then, was she really cheating with Victor Lane? Yes. Another pause. I'm sorry, Dad. I know this must be hard. It is. But it's also necessary. What can I do? Nothing. This is between your mother and me. You focus on your new wife and your new life. Will you be okay? I looked around my quiet house, at the spaces where Dana's things used to be, at the absence that somehow felt more real than her presence ever had. I think so, son. I think I will be. After Jake hung up, I drove downtown to my office. Harbor Street was busy with the usual Friday morning traffic, people running errands and getting ready for the weekend. Normal life, continuing despite the small drama that had consumed my world for the past week. Mrs. Pruitt flagged me down outside the bank. Harold, how are you holding up, dear? I'm fine, Mrs. Pruitt. Thank you for asking. Such a shame about Dana, though I have to say, some of us saw this coming years ago. Did you? Oh, yes. A woman doesn't start dressing like she's 25 again without a reason. And that Victor Lane, well, everyone knew he was trouble the minute he came back to town. Everyone except me, apparently. You're a good man, Harold. Too good, maybe. Sometimes good men finish last because they don't realize they're in a race. I thought about that as I walked to my office. Had I been too good? Too trusting? Too willing to believe the best of someone who'd been showing me her worst for years? Maybe, but I wasn't that man anymore. Linda Morse was waiting in my office, sitting in the client chair with a cup of coffee and a serious expression. Morning, Harold. We need to talk. About what? About Dana. She was arrested last night. For what? Breaking and entering. Vandalism. She went to Victor's house after she left yours, found it empty, and decided to redecorate. Broke 3 windows, spray-painted some choice words on the walls, and was working on the front door when the neighbors called it in. I sat down heavily in my desk chair. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Mentally? Linda shrugged. She's looking at criminal charges, Harold. Real ones. The property owner is pressing charges, and Victor's harassment complaint gives her a pattern of behavior. What do you need from me? Nothing, officially. Unofficially? She's asking for you. Says she needs to talk to you before she'll accept a plea deal. I don't want to see her. I don't blame you. But Harold, she's talking about hurting herself. The jail psychiatrist thinks she's serious. I stared out my office window at the harbor, where fishing boats were heading out for the day's work. Normal people doing normal jobs, not dealing with the wreckage of failed marriages and broken promises. What kind of plea deal? Probation, restitution, mandatory counseling. She'd avoid jail time if she gets her act together. And if I don't talk to her? She might do something stupid, or she might fight the charges and make everything worse for herself. I thought about Dana, sitting in a jail cell, probably still wearing my old raincoat, facing the reality of what her life had become. I thought about the woman I'd married, young and hopeful and full of dreams. I thought about the stranger she'd become, desperate and destructive and utterly lost. One conversation, I said finally. That's all. The county jail was a depressing concrete building that smelled of disinfectant and despair. Dana was waiting in a small conference room, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made her look pale and fragile. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face blotchy and raw. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down across from her. "Linda said you wanted to talk." I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just say the words. Okay. I know I destroyed everything. Our marriage, my business, my relationships with friends and family. I know it's my fault, and I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything. No, it doesn't. But I need you to know that I loved you once. Really loved you. It wasn't all lies, Harold. I looked at her across the metal table, this woman who'd shared my bed and my life for 27 years, and tried to find some trace of the person I'd fallen in love with. When? I asked. When did you stop? I don't know. Gradually, I think. It wasn't any one thing, just years of feeling like I was disappearing, like I was just Harold Keaton's wife, not Dana. When Victor came back, he made me feel like myself again, like the person I used to be. The person you used to be was 25 years old, Dana. You can't go back. I know that now. Do you? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? She was quiet for a long moment. I'm scared, Harold. I'm 53 years old. I have no money, no job, no friends, and I'm sitting in jail wearing an orange jumpsuit. I don't know how to start over. Neither did I. But I'm learning. Will you help me? Help you how? I don't know. Just don't abandon me completely. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or calculation. All I saw was exhaustion and genuine fear. I'll pay for a lawyer, I said finally. A good one. And I'll make sure you have enough money to get back on your feet. But after that, we're done, Dana. Completely done. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I don't want to be the kind of man who kicks someone when they're down, even if they deserve it. I stood to leave, but she called my name. Harold? What you did, destroying my shop, turning everyone against me, making sure I lost everything, was that revenge? I thought about it. No. Revenge would have been letting you run off with Victor and then destroying your life from a distance. What I did was justice. There's a difference. What's the difference? Revenge is about making someone pay. Justice is about making things right. I left her sitting in that sterile room, probably for the last time. Outside, the October sun was shining, and Harbor Street was busy with normal life. I walked to my car, got in, and drove home to my quiet house. That evening, I went to the lobster trap for dinner. Gary was there along with half the town, and for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. People nodded to me, included me in conversations, treated me like a person instead of just Dana's husband. "How you doing, Harry?" Gary asked. "Better, different, but better." "Any regrets?" I thought about Dana in her jail cell, about Victor running away to whatever hole he'd crawled into, about the wreckage of a 27-year marriage scattered across a small Maine town. "No," I said. "No regrets." Later that night, I stood on the bluff overlooking the harbor, the same spot where Dana and I used to walk when we were young and still believed in forever. In my hand was something I'd been carrying around for days. Dana's wedding bouquet from our son's wedding, the one she'd abandoned in her rush to be with Victor. 27 years ago, she'd carried a bouquet of white roses down the aisle toward me, promising to love and honor and cherish. This bouquet was different. Red roses mixed with baby's breath, expensive and elaborate and ultimately meaningless. I held it up in the moonlight, then threw it as far as I could into the dark water below. It disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the waves and the night. Behind me, the lights of Harbor Street twinkled like stars, and I could hear the distant sound of laughter from the lobster trap. Normal life, going on without the drama and lies that had consumed so much of my time and energy. I walked back to my car, got in, and drove home to my quiet house. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new chances to build something real from the ashes of what had been. Dana had wanted a bouquet of roses. Instead, I'd given her a bouquet of ashes, the burned remains of lies and betrayal and 27 years of wasted devotion. It was exactly what she deserved.